Welcome to my YouTube channel. Subscribe, like, share and drop your comments. Thank you. Let's sew little girl dress. These are the materials that I will use. I will use this satin. This is a doll face satin. I will use a 2, or you can also call it net. You can call it 2 or net. And I will be making use of this lace fabric. I'll be making use of this lace fabric, and I will make use of this other fabric, which will serve as my lining. That is what I will use to line the dress. I'll be cutting for 2 because I'm sewing for 2 little girls, and I'll be showing you different ways to sew it. Okay, this is me. I already cut out what I need. This is the lace that will be outside, followed by the doll face, then followed by the lining material that I will use. So this is how I will join them together. This is the front, and this is the back. It will have zipper at the back. If you want to know how to cut something like this, check the description box. I will drop the link to a video I made showing how to cut a little girl, or how to draft the pattern for a little girl dress. So at the back, for the back pattern, I will cut off 0.75 inches from that point that I'm marking towards the center seam. I will draw a line like that, and the reason why I'm cutting this out is because I don't want the back to be longer than the front. So when you cut out like this, it helps to balance the back, because this dress definitely will have gather at the skirt part. So I'll cut out that part. And if it is for adults, maybe you are sewing a peplum for adults, you can cut 1 inch off the way I just did, so that it will balance well at the back. Let's explain how to cut the skirt of the dress. So if you have a fabric, let's assume your fabric is by 60, you fold it just like this. After folding, this fold depends on 2 things. 1, it depends on the length of your fabric. Secondly, it depends on the length of the skirt you are trying to achieve. So if you are cutting a 360 fillet or a 360 skirt, this is how you do your fold. Now, this fold must accommodate the length of your skirt plus what you cut off at the upper part of the circle. And how do you calculate what you cut off at the upper part of the circle? The waist of your waist measurement, you add 2 inches to it. The 2 inches is for the zipper allowance. Depending on your zipper allowance, if it is more than 2, then you add it to it, and you divide that by 6.28. Once you get your answer, you measure it from this angle, from this edge, and you just mark it to get your semicircle like that. And then from that point, you get the length of your skirt. And how do you get the length of your skirt? Once you measure your client, the dress, wherever you want the dress to get to, you subtract the bodice from your dress length, and that is what will be the skirt, and it's that measurement you will now mark from the smaller arc to get a bigger arc. And after marking it, you cut it out. That will give you a 360 skirt. Now this 360 might not work if you are sewing for a taller girl, or you want the skirt to be very, the skirt length is long, is more than, you know, our fabric is by 60. So if your skirt is more than maybe 25 or 26, then you might not be able to cut 360. Then you can consider cutting 370 degrees skirt, or you cut 180. That means the skirt we have joining at the side. Okay, so this is what I have, and I now opened one side. That is the side I will have the zip. You know, remember we added the zipper allowance before we cut. So that side we have the zip, and it will go around the bodice like this. So let me teach you how to cut 180 too. This 180 works for you when the skirt length is long. If you are dealing with a skirt length that is maybe 30 inches and above, or anything from 26 inches and above, you might have to consider cutting your skirt length, like your skirt like this. That means you cut 180, and that measurement there must be half of your waist. Once you get the half of your waist, from there you get your skirt length. You get your skirt length and you cut it out. So after cutting this out, this is the front, you use it to cut the back also, and you add your zipper allowance. You add your zipper allowance and you cut it out. So for this type of skirt, your skirt will have joining by the side. So by the two sides you will join it, and at the back it will have zipper allowance. So this is the front. I'll use it to cut the back, and this is 180 to 180 to still give you the 360 effect, only that it has side joining. And the reason you are cutting like this is because you are sewing for a bigger girl, or even for an adult. This is how you cut it. This is how you cut it. So that is the zipper allowance. At that point I'll cut it out, and when you sew, you do your side joining so that you can have the complete skirt. So the zipper side will be open. You cut it open like this, and this is, so at the end you have 3 pieces. Then you join the two sides, the right and the left sides. And when you are cutting, you must definitely add your seam allowance to it. So the last circle I will show you how to cut is 270 degree circle, and you can also use this. You can also use this type of circle. It won't be as full as a 360, and for this 270 degree you cut only one. So you use your waist measurement at this point. For the 180 you use half of your waist. If your waist is a 30, you cut 15 for the front, 15 for the back. But for this 270 you use the whole waist, which is 30, to cut the waistline. Then you mark the length of your skirt and you cut it out. This 270 won't be as full as the 360 circle, but you might need it if you don't have enough material and your skirt is long. So these are the 3 type of circle that will cut. That is the 270, the 180, the 180 now will be 2 to still achieve the 360, and this is the 360 cycle. So let's go back to our fabric. So back to our fabric. The length that I need is 25 for the first girl. So I was able to get that from my fabric after folding it into 4 and removing the upper part, which is where I got my waistline from. So after cutting, this is the 360 flay that I have. So I'll slit one side open. I'll open one side so that that will be the back as well as my zipper allowance. The next thing is to cut my lining. I'll place this on the lining fabric. I'll fold the fabric the same way I folded this. I'll place it on the lining fabric and cut out the lining. The only difference is that my lining will be shorter, maybe 3 or 4 inches shorter than the doll face, because I will not want my lining to show underneath the dress. I did notice my camera went off, so I didn't show the part where I joined the shoulder of the upper part. I joined the shoulder of the back to the front. This is what I have. So I'll be showing you 2 methods of sewing this type of dress. Although I usually use 3, but in this video I'll be showing 2. So after joining my main material, I also joined the lining, the shoulder of the lining. So the next thing is to put my lining on the material on my dress, and right side to right side I'll sew the neckline. I'll sew the neckline around. So after sewing it around, I will notch the seam allowance that I have. After notching, I will understitch. The purpose of understitching is for the lining to stay where I want it to stay. When you understitch, your lining will not come up. It won't show. It won't show. So this is me I'm trying to set the fabric, making sure that my the shoulder line of the main material and the lining align at that point. So I'll use my pin to hold it and I'll sew. I'm done sewing at this point. The next thing is to notch. I will notch all around and I will understitch. After notching, I will open up the dress like this. Now I will be sewing on the lining. I will make sure my allowance is towards the lining, and I will sew. If you notice, I didn't start from the beginning. I skipped my my zipper allowance. I will tell you the reason why I did not understitch from that point. Okay, so you see the seam allowance is towards the lining, and I'm sewing close to the first seam. That is what we call understitching. I'll stitch on the lining, and this will help the lining to stay. The lining will not come out when the person is wearing the dress. So this is a critical step for you if you want to make a dress that is very neat. So you make sure you understitch. So I'm still working on the neckline of this dress. As I said earlier, I will be showing you 2 methods of sewing. This is the first one. Make sure you watch this video to the end so that you learn the second way of sewing. This little girl dress. So I will understitch till I get close to where my zipper allowance is. I intentionally did not want to understitch to that stage. I will show you why. I will still understitch later. And another thing is this: you might not do it. I did it step by step like this so that you will understand. You can decide to sew your main fabric all through. You finish sewing the main fabric, you join the bodice to the skirt for the outer fabric, then for the lining too, before you join it together. But it might be confusing. That's why I'm doing it step by step. So after working on the neckline, the next thing is to join my armhole, to sew the armhole. The dress we are making is armless. It doesn't have a sleeve. So I already sewed the armhole at this stage. You see me just cutting it. Then the next thing is I will still notch it. Notching means you cut it small at interval. Cut it close to that sewing, to that seam, but be sure not to cut the seam. It should be close, but not, you shouldn't cut it. So after I notch like this, I'll still understitch it. And because it is the shoulder, it might be kind of tight, but I just have to do it. So I'll turn it inside out, that is to my right side. I love understitching from the right side. So after turning it inside out, I'll take it to my sewing machine and I will understitch. What you need to know is I'm sewing on the lining, and also the sewing allowance or the excess inside must be towards the lining, must face the lining side. That is how to understitch. So I'll do that until I get to a very tight corner where the machine cannot move, as in there is no way for me to access the point further. Then I'll turn the fabric to the other side, of the armhole, and understitch. So I will do that until I achieve my aim. It's getting tight at this point because I'm close to the shoulder. So I remove it and I'll turn it to the other side. I already turned it to the other side, so I'll stay on the stitch. Make sure my seam allowance, that is where I stop from the end, from that end. So from this end too, I will sew to go and meet where I stopped. So at this point, I'm done under stitching it. I have understitched the armhole and the neckline. So this is what I have. The next thing is to take it to your sewing machine and press it so that everything will be neat and flat. That's the shoulder. So I'll go to the second dress and I'll show you another method of achieving something like this. Okay, this is the second one. Now here I will just use the lining, I will use the lining to turn the neckline, and I will use the lining to turn the armhole. of the front part. And I will do the same also for the back, and I will understitch. You see, I've already done that because my lace was not enough. So for this second person, the lace will not be at the back, the lace is just at the front. So this is what I have. I already used the lining to turn it. You take it to your machine, to your ironing table, and press so that everything will be nice and smooth. So when you are done with that, then I'll bring the back. This is the back. So I'll put the back on the front, right side to right side, right side to right side, shoulder to shoulder. Then I will now, the shoulder is together like this. Then I will dip my hands in between the lining and the main fabric for the back, and I will put in the shoulder for my front like this. I'll set it. I'll make sure my seam allowance is facing my lining. The seam allowance will be facing the lining like this on both sides, on both ends. And I will sew it. I'll do that for the right and the left shoulder. So this is what I have. I'll do that for the other side. And that is the second method of joining. You see it's as neat as the first one, so it just depends on the what you want to use. The next thing is to join the bodies. So this is on the side, the belt. I want the dress to have belt, so I cut out my belt. I will sew it and I will turn it inside out. It depends on how long you want your belt to be. For a 5-year-old child, I'm sewing for 6 and 5 years, so I used a belt of 29 inches for the 6 years, and for the 5 years I used 27. And I used 5 inches for one, 4 inches for one. So that is when I fold it into two, that is 2 inches eventually, and 2.5 inches. So it depends on how large you want your belt to be. So just cut your belt, and I'm trimming it, and I'll turn it inside out. So this is the belt after turning it inside out. I'll take it to my ironing table and I'll press it. Apart from the belt that will go to the back that will tie, I also want this front to have something like this. So I just cut I cut 2.5 inches on fold. If I did not fold, that is 5 inches. I cut 2.5 inches on fold, and I will just ironed it, and I will sew it on the front part of this dress. And I will also connect my belt. But before I connect the belt, I will make sure I leave half inches. That half inches will be where I will join the skirt, the lower part of this dress. And after that, I will now join my clothes, right, the main fabric to the main fabric, the main fabric to the main fabric, and the lining to the lining. I will open it up. You see, that's the shoulder, that's the armhole, rather, that's the armhole. So the armhole, I'll make sure it meets each other. I can pin it down, and the lining separate. So by the time I finish sewing, the sewing will be sandwiched in between the lining and my fabric. So at this point, I'm done joining, and let me show you what I have. Let me show you what I have. This is what I have. You see my belt, I left like half an inch there that will join to the skirt. You see the lining is separate and the main fabric is separate. Do you see what I have? That is the armhole. That's the armhole. So that is what I have. The same thing I did to this, I will do to the other one. This is the inside. This is the inside of the dress. This is the inside. The sewing is, so I can trim off this sewing allowance, and I will use interlock in machine to interlock it so that it can be neat inside. So this is what I have. I will do exactly the same thing to the second dress. Let me explain how to cut the net. Let's assume this paper is our tool, that is our net, and sometimes some nets comes by 60, others by 90, that is the length, by 90 or even 120. So whatever the length of your net, what you do is you calculate what is the length of your skirt. So if the length of your skirt, let's assume, is 25, and you know this particular net comes by 60, so that means I can divide my net into two. So meaning for this particular net, I have 2 layers. Now it depends on how full you want your dress to be, whether you want 2 layers of net, 3 layers of net, or 4 layers of net. Personally, when I sew a girl dress like this, I usually like 3 layers or 4 layers. Now the number of yards you will use depends on how full you want each layer to be, or how full you want the dress to be on its own. Let's do a little calculation. For a waist of 25, if I want my gathering, the gathering of the net or organza to be full, and I want it to be like 7 times of the waist, this is the calculation. 25 inches times 7, because I want it to be 7 times of the waist, will give me 175 inches. So I'll divide the 175 inches by 36 inches, since it is 36 inches that we have in a yard. So my answer will be 4.86 yards, meaning if I want to buy my net, I can buy like maybe 4.5 yards or 5 yards. So now when I buy my 5 yards or my 4.5 yards, and the net I'm working with is by 60, the length is 60. So, and I want 2 layers for my net, meaning if I buy my 5 yards, I will just divide it into 2. I will gather the first layer, I will gather the second layer, and I will have my 2 layers of net. But if I want 4 layers, that means it will be 4.5 yards times 2, which is 9 yards. I hope you understand what I'm saying. So that is what you use to calculate, depending on the length of the person or on of the skirt, depending on the fullness. Using seven times of the waist is very full. You can use 5, you can use 4, depending on how full you want it to be. I hope it makes sense. So let's go back to what we are sewing. So let's assume this is the net. You fold it like this, and you are sure that when you fold it like that, it will be enough for the length that you want. So after folding, you just cut it. And if you feel maybe it's for a small girl, like a 2-year-old or 3-year-old, you might be able to cut your net into 3, the way I'm folding like this. It's possible for you to cut it like that, and you just fold, you've cut it. And but if the person is tall or an adult, you will not have the luxury of cutting your net because you need more length. So all you just need to do is you prepare your net, the length you want, you gather it. You can use 2 methods together. You can use your needle and thread together, and you can use machine together, your sewing machine together. Personally, I prefer the sewing machine because it is faster and it comes out neater. It comes out neater for me, but if you prefer hand gathering, it's fine. So you just gather it. Let me show you how I usually do my gathering with my sewing machine. So this is my net. I already cut it. I'll be using 3 layers for this style, and I'm using 12 yards for the 2 girls. I'm using 12 yards for the 2 girls, so I already cut it. I ended up using 4 yards for each layer. 4 yards. Since it is 12 yards, I cut it into 4, that is 3. Then I cut it again, so I have 6 because of their length. Now together, this is my sewing thread. So I pour machine oil on it. This will help me with friction. It will help me so that when I'm gathering, my thread will not cut. So that is the first arc, the first thing I do. And that thread is what I will put on the upper part, and I can also put it on, in my bobbin. So the next thing is to adjust my sewing stitch. I'll use a large sewing stitch. I will not back tack, and I will just put my net on the sewing machine and I will sew till I get to the end. Then another thing I usually do for me to be safe is I sew 2 times. I don't use one sewing. So after, when I complete this, I will come back and sew so that I will have 2 thread. In case one thread decides to misbehave and cut, it won't be as if I'll have to start all over. So that is how I usually gather my net. And you can actually use this for your gathering work. It will work perfectly. You oil your thread, you use a big sewing stitch, and also you sew it 2 or even 3 times. If I'm gathering a medium weight fabric, I will sew 3 times so that I will be sure it won't give me headache. So after sewing the first round, this is me coming back to sew the second round. So I'll sew the second round also till I get to the end of the net. Now let me show you how to gather. So you pick one thread, either the front or the back thread, then you pick one here also for both lines, one thread. You hold it not too tight and you pull your net. Because of the oil, it's so easy to pull. So you just keep pulling, you keep pulling until you get to the length you want, and that is the length of your waist. Since we are sewing it at the waist, the length of your waist, or the circumference of your waist now, plus your seam allowance. Plus your zipper allowance. Yes, plus the zipper allowance. At this point, I want to show you again one common occurrence when you are working on your gathering like this. Your thread, either the upper thread can cut, or the thread in your bobbin can finish. So this is what you will do. This is what you do if that happens. You don't have to start all over. So I will show you what you need to do, because it can be frustrating. But let me show you what you will do. So at this point, I'll cut my thread. Let's assume it was the thread that got finished. So I'll cut it at that point so that I can show you what to do. Now after fixing your thread, then you go back to that spot where your thread got finished. You see that spot? Then you go back a little. You go back so that you are not starting at that spot now. You are starting before. Yes, you go back like that, like 2 inches up before the spot where your thread got finished. Then you continue sewing at that point. Then you continue sewing until you get to the end. I'll come back and show you how to pull. So this is the spot. I'll pull that side, and so now I will have 2 sides, one to the right, one to the left. The sewing that goes to the left, I'll pull the net to the left, and the one that goes to the right, I will pull it. So you just have to be mindful that at that spot you have to be careful that you have double thread. So that is how you are going to do it. Now let me show you. I'm done with the gathering. This is the satin fabric which will be under the net. So this is how it is with my zipper allowance at one end. So I'll bring the first net. I will lay it on it. I will try as much as possible to make my gathering uniform. But this, you must note, that zipper allowance, that 1 inch, that is your zipper allowance, you must not gather the net at that point. The net must be straight. Even if it is organza, whatever material you are using, there must not be gathering at that spot. If not, it might mess up your work, and to fix your zipper might be difficult. So at that spot, you see, there is no gather. Just want the net. So from that point, then I will adjust my gathering, make it as uniform as possible, and I will use my pin. I'll pin it down until I get to the end, to the other side. So that is the first layer. I'll pick second layer, the second net. I will do it exactly like this too, and I will do the third one. You might ask that why did I gather them separately? For me, gathering them separately comes out more beautiful. Gathering them separately makes it more fluffy and more beautiful. If you gather them together, I don't usually like the outcome. Then you might ask, why 3 layers? Personal preference, 3 or 4 layers for me, because I want that inner doll face. I don't want to see it. So after using my pin, I brought it to my sewing machine and I will join it. So I'm joining the 3 layers of net with the doll face satin. That is what I'm joining here. So after joining, this is what I have, and this is the fullness. This is the fullness. So the next thing is to join the upper part to the skirt, the main material to the main material of the skirt, then the lining to the skirt lining. I hope you remember that we cut the skirt lining also, so I will join them separate. When I join, I'll come back and show you what I have. So this is just what I have. There is no zipper yet, just what I have, just a quick view of what we have achieved so far. So now I have to take it back to join, to make the zipper and do other things. So the next thing I'll do is to join the net layer by layer. So the first layer of the net by the right, I will join it with the first layer of net by the left, and I will sew it up to a point, with the point where my zipper will stop, thereabouts. So I will join the first layer, the second layer, and the third layer. And this is it. I'm done joining 1, 2, and the third one. 1, 2, and the third one. So let's work on the neckline. You see this neckline, this particular one, I already understitch it, but the second one I did not understitch. If you remember, I said I will explain why I did not understitch the second one, but I understitch this one. However, I will have to lose that understitching, and I will lose the neckline a little to accommodate to, I already lose the neckline at this point, to sew my zipper allowance. So from the neckline upward, I lose the lining a little bit. So I didn't know, it was not, my camera was not capturing that part, but this is it. You see, this is the joining, the waist joining. Now the waist joining to the net, I used my pin to hold it because I want to sew my zipper allowance from the neckline down to where it will end. So I'm arranging all the net. I want to make sure I pick all the net at this point with the doll face. You see the doll face? You see it? So I want to make sure I capture everything. I want to make sure I capture it. So if it's too bulky, you can use your net. And this is the lace, the net the place I stopped sewing the net. I want to make sure I captured everything. You see, and at this point, once I get to that point, I will push my net away. You see the way I tucked it in. Push my net away and sew only the doll face till I get to the end of the doll face. Until I get to the end of the doll face. Okay, this is it, the zipper allowance from the hub to the waistline. You see the waistline at that point, that's the waistline. You see the waistline down with all the nets. You see all the nets. You see all the nets. And I got to a point, I pushed the nets away. You see at this point that I'm touching the nets, I already pushed them away, and I continue sewing only the doll face. So this is it at the right side. You see the doll face. You see the net where I pushed it out. So this is the right side of the dress, the back. This part I'm touching is the zipper line. You see the point where I push the net out, you see it at that point. Yes, you see it. That is where I push the net out, and I have 1, 2 and 3 and 3. So the next thing is to fix my zipper. The next thing is to fix the zipper. So I'll still lose this zipper stitch, this stitch. I'll still lose it, and I'll fix the zipper. You see, this is my zipper. This is it. Now let me show you how to finish the neckline. You see the zipper, so I will now sew my neckline again. One thing you can do is you can finish the outer part from the bodice to the skirt, finish your lining, then you now turn your neckline and your armhole. If that is okay, no problem. I'm done sewing the neckline. So the next thing is to use my lining to turn my zip. I hope you get what I want to do at this point. The lining right side to right side, and I will now use it. After sewing my zip, I open the zip. Now I will sew the zip allowance of the lining and the zip allowance of the main fabric close to my zipper teeth. Now close to my zipper teeth, and I'll sew it straight down. I'll sew it straight down. When I'm done, I'll come show you what I have. So this is it. You see, neatly concealing the sewing, the zipper allowance inside. This is it. Everything is concealed inside, so you can knit this inside the way you want. You can use your overlock. You can just trim it and make it so neat. If you don't want to use your overlock, I already overlock this side. You see it. You trim off all threads and make it neat. Okay, let's go to how to turn the skirt. This is me turning the doll face, and I'm turning once, just once first. I'll turn it once like this, and I'll sew it around. I'll turn it once, I will sew it around. After doing that, I'll come back and show you the next step to take. I didn't fold it 2 times, I folded it just once. You see, I folded it once. So when I'm done sewing, I'll come back and show you the next step to take. You can actually do double folding at this stage if you are good at hemming a curve or a circle. But if you are a learner, this is your best bet to get a very perfect result. And also, this is good when you want you want it to be small. You want your fold or your hem to be small. Okay, so after sewing the first time, you trim off your excess like this. You see the way I'm trimming it. You have to be careful not to cut the main clothes. So you trim it off or till you get to the end. So after trimming it off, you go back to your sewing machine and you refold. You fold the second time on the sewing machine. When you sew your hem like this, it comes out neat, and it does not show that you are a beginner at all, and it will not fold. So this is me taking it back to my sewing machine, and I'll now fold it once again, the last folding. So if you want a tiny, and this step is, it works well for all these sheer fabrics like chiffon, you know, all those tiny industrial sewing. You can achieve it using this method. So this is me going back to my sewing machine and sewing it the second time. You do this to the lining also, and basically that is all to it for this dress. The dress is ready, almost ready. So this is what I have at the end of the day. You see the hem, take it to my ironing table and I'll iron it. My net is longer, so I'll have to trim it off. I'll trim it off, and I want to put an applique at the front, so I'll just design it with this particular applique, and that is it. I just said I should show you a step-by-step process of how to sew a dress like this. You see it, it's nice, it's neat, and it's beautiful. And I must say that for this dress, the gathering was 5.5 times of the waist, and it is 3 layers. You see how full it is. If it is by 7, it will be very full. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you have learned something new. See you in my next tutorial. Don't forget to subscribe.